program is Lagoonradio, your number one online gospel radio in Nigeria and the official radio of the Anglican Communion Diocese of Lagos. Of course, we are transmitting live from the Diocesan Palace right here in Arena, Lagos. It's the Legal Show, Know Your Right. And this morning, we'll be looking at legal considerations that enhance fundraising by SMEs. Yes, it's a Wet Friday morning. Remember, you can download the app on Google Play Store and the Apple Store. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Lagoon Radio Nigeria. Of course, we are live on Facebook and on Instagram, Lagoon Radio NG. And this morning, we have a barrister, Ada Madubobu. Barrister, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me in your station this morning.
Okay. When we talk about legal considerations to enhance fundraising by SMEs, what do we mean by these legal considerations?
Yes, I think before going to that question, I would just like to, lay some background as to who SMEs are and, the issues they face and why we have to look to legal considerations to be able to help them with their fundraising endeavors. So SMEs really, I would just say small and medium enterprises. You can add the micro enterprises to that as well. There's no universal definition. Countries try to adopt their own definition, and in Nigeria, as you would expect, we have different definition from the CBN, from the SME Development Agency, and Ministry of Finance. But we can say that when you aggregate the definition, it sort of refers to enterprises that their turnover is less than 100 million per annum, or enterprises that have less than 300 employees. So essentially, if you look at it, it would seem like most enterprises in Nigeria fall under this category. And so really and truly, the Nigerian labor force, SME is the biggest employer here. It is just that we then have those in the formal sector and those in the informal sector. And sadly, we seem to have more in the informal sector. And that is where we have a lot of problems coming. Both those in the formal and informal sector face a lot of problems. And, these problems are attributed to the fact that we don't have a deep financial system in Nigeria. So access to finance to stimulate growth and development for these enterprises is a problem. And, we have issues of infrastructure deficit. There's just a lot of odds against them in the Nigerian scenario. So that's why you could see a business you've known for years still operating at the same level after so many years with no growth, no expansion. And some along the way disappear. That's why you see a lot of people in our streets doing the same thing over and over again with no growth or no plan, probably because they don't even have the knowledge. And that's where the issue of labor, skilled labor, there's just a lot of problems that the SME sector faces in Nigeria. And the place where legal issues or legal considerations come to play is even the fact that some SMEs start on the wrong footing. First and foremost, we must appreciate that to get it right, you have to start on the right footing when you are setting up your business. So, the lawyer needs to be there to support you in terms of guiding you to the right vehicle to have there when starting up. So, when I say legal considerations that can enhance fundraising by SMEs, I'm essentially talking about how SMEs can put their house in order from day one and put their best foot forward, from a legal perspective in order to be very appealing to investors. And this is an aggregate of different things. It starts from how you organize your shareholding structure. It starts from how you have your business, plans put up for you. Which vehicle are you going to set up? All of those things, managing your risks and a lot. We'll delve into them more as we advance, but that's essentially what I would define what today is about to me here.
Okay, you mentioned some small businesses are disappearing from the face of the earth after a little while, especially in Nigeria. And a lot of people have said that there are some government policies that do not go well with these small-scale businesses. Is that a right statement?
Yes, and I think it's a general. I mean, obviously businesses disappear, um, large and small businesses. The only thing is that it's more prevalent with the small businesses, the SMEs, and even more prevalent in Africa. And yes, we have our government. They try to make some moves in terms of policies, in terms of having things put in place for this sector. But then I think along the way we have a lot of misalignment when it comes to policy, conceptual, like conceptualization, implementation and all of that at the different tiers of government. When you go to the local government level, which is the closest, it's supposed to be the grassroots government. Um, you know, you realize that for most local governments, they don't even have anything to do with plans for SMEs. And when you come to state level, different states across the federation try to do one or two things, and then the federal government also has its own. And sometimes there is no meeting point, across all these programs, that they have. And it's very difficult now when you couple it with the fact that our own economy in Nigeria is a very peculiar one because we are faced with a lot of political risks. There's no continuity in government policies. This government comes up and set this up, another wouldn't continue and just start off with another thing. You have regulatory risks where regulators can wake up and just change the rules in the middle of the game. And we now have economic risks as well, that the fact that our economy is a monotonous one where we're supposed to, we predominantly, the earnings of this country come from our oil and gas exports. And then in a COVID-19 era and in an era where oil prices are depreciating and everything, we need to sustain ourselves as a country. Most are coming from oil revenue, and then we are stuck in the middle of reduced earnings, right? So it's a lot to grapple with. And it's not for the government to run the business for the people. We have to always remind ourselves that government don't make a nation, in the sense that it's not government that will set up the businesses for people. No, the government's major duty is to provide a very clement business environment for innovation to thrive, to mop up finances for people, like for people with ideas, to provide skilled, sort of boost your labor force to be competitive in terms of knowledge. And all these things have to be carefully implemented and well mapped out. But that's not the case here, and it's a problem.
Okay. You also mentioned formal and informal businesses, the small scale.
Yes.
So can you differentiate? We want to know the difference between the formal and the informal.
In simple terms, I would just say the informal SMEs are those ones that are not registered. Along our streets, you see a lot of shops in the marketplaces, stores, and for these businesses, they are more or less, for lack of better word, not existing before the law. And there's a huge disadvantage for that they have because of this, because most of the finances that businesses access will need you to be registered, and is a prerequisite condition to do that. And you have to be in the formal sector, really, to access a whole lot. The finances, yes, we're trying to say, okay, let's expand the financial horizon for businesses in Nigeria, in Africa, the small, medium enterprises to have access to finance. How do we innovate? But at the end of the day, the people that will have access when we build up all these are those in the formal sector. And in our society, people are reluctant to move their business to the formal sector because of some obvious reasons. For some people, they think it's a way that government will get hold of them and start taxing them. They feel like government will be robbing them of their hard-earned money from taxes and levies. The sentimental thing, and you can understand that in this part of the world because of the way government have the records of government in terms of how they lead the people and govern. There's some level of distrust, and you can understand where that's happening. But be that as it may, I think it's always in the best interest of businesses to be in the formal sector, because you are available, you are prepared, you see yourself putting your house in order generally, and you are able to apply for this finance opportunities, grants, loans, all of that. Yes.
Okay. Looking at Nigeria, where a lot of these small scale entrepreneurs, they are ignorant of this, and like you said, how do we educate people? How do we let them know that there is need for them to register, and what are the benefits of the registration?
Yes. I think how to educate people is there is no one. Will I say there is no one magical solution to how to educate people, right, on the importance of registering. This show is definitely one of that platform, which is good. Government, that is where the government comes in. Government must invest in, well planned and well executed literacy programs. You leverage on different forms of media, social media, the traditional media, print media, broadcast media, the marketplaces. They have associations, churches, different groups, and also encourage private investors like large corporations to expand their CSR, in that regard. I mean, you see a lot of multinationals like the Googles and the likes, they have programs where they sort of try to expand, opportunities for upcoming entrepreneurs to develop skills. They have programs, set up for them and all that. So there's just 1,001 ways to go about this whole literacy program for small enterprises, and yeah, the ones that are ignorant of the benefits, right? And also in terms of, I also think it should also be drilled down to our educational curriculum in schools, starting from secondary education and all of that. People have to start understanding some of these things and how it plays out. Some of our curriculum in school, they're very redundant, for lack of better words, very redundant, that when you compare them with what you see in other climes and jurisdictions, they're not competitive enough to set people up to think on their own, to lead innovative thoughts, let alone even knowing, how to build the big empires and all that. So most times we from this part of the world, we have to learn and, learn all of this on our own. Now, coming to the benefits of, registration and playing in the formal sector, like I said, there are a lot of benefits. One is you are visible to potential investors. Now, if you register, let's say you have a small business, and now even the law in Nigeria, there's a recent law that was passed last year, the KAMA, that repealed the old. So KAMA is Companies and Allied Matters Act. We had one that had been there for like 30 years, and it was replaced last year with a new one. And some of the provisions of that law are very innovative, forward-looking, trying to encourage SMEs. It says you can have your company with just one shareholder. For small companies, that's companies that have turnover of less than 120 million naira. When we say turnover, it's like your total sales in a year, and you don't have, your net asset does not exceed 60 million. For those sort of companies, you can just, what do we call it? You don't have to comply with some of the intricacies of the law for, corporate governance, like having your annual general meetings, all those issues. So it's more straightforward to run your business as a small company. You are visible, like I said. You meet requirements for most loans. If you think about the Bank of Industry, we have what we call the Bank of Industry that provide loans to SMEs. You have to be registered. When CBN released its COVID-19 support fund last year, the requirement is that you have to be registered. When the DFI, the likes of African Development Bank, IFC, as International Finance Corporation, tried to release, their SME support loans to banks and all that to be able to fund SMEs. They also require that, some of the things the bank will have to do is to check that this SME is duly registered, right? And also being registered helps you to, you have a proper bank account for the company, you are borrowing, you have credit history, you are forced to organize your house because you need to have corporate governance structure set. That it's not the one that if you earn money today, you spend it like that. No. If you decide to go through the route of being a company, I mean, there are other registration options, and that is why you need a lawyer, because you need to be properly guided as to which will be suited to your objective at any given time in the evolution of the business, right? So if you go for a company, as the shareholder, you're different from the company in terms of legal personality. You're not the same in the eyes of the law. People are two different persons. And the company is on its own. So you don't take the money from the business and just spend it on yourself. You have to account for it. You need to do things properly. And these are things that when investors see, they have confidence. And also, you are moved to research more about what you do, to know your competitors, to know how to innovate, to know how to get your own share of the market. Like some of people in our informal sectors that dwell so much on importing things and reselling. If you're registered and you start thinking along the line of the sustainability of that approach, you may start thinking of, okay, how do we start manufacturing this in Nigeria, and what market do we cover? I don't know how many of them that know that, we recently have this African free trade zone, African continental free trade zone that is being implemented, which is like African countries coming together to say, let's have like a free trade zone arrangement where amongst African nations, we can freely trade what we produce in our different African nations. So if you're in the formal sector, you are privy to this information, you look out for these sort of things, and you start thinking, okay, if the African, gates of the African country will be open to entrepreneurs from different part of the continent, what do I need to do to start strategizing to benefit from this? How do I expand my market? And that will also inspire you to start thinking, okay, my global competitors, what are they doing? How do I even grow my labor force to be skilled? So you start looking on a forward, you have this forward-looking business approach to the way you run your business. So it becomes a business that you are running, and it's not just what you are doing to sustain your livelihood.
Okay, you're still listening to our legal program, Know Your Rights, on Lagoon Radio, and we've been talking to Barrister Ada Madubobu, and we are talking about legal considerations that enhance fundraising by SMEs, and I am enjoying it. I know you too. You're enjoying it too. We'll go on this short break. When we come back, we'll look at why you need a lawyer properly, and also how to raise fund for these small scale businesses. Keep listening to us. We'll be right back.
This is Lagoon.
Yes, you're still tuned to Lagoon Radio, your number one online gospel radio in Nigeria, and the official radio of the Anglican Diocese of Lagos. We are transmitting live from the Diocesan Palace right here in Marina, Lagos. It's all about the legal show, Know Your Right. And today we are looking at legal considerations that enhance fundraising by SMEs. And Barrister, that is still here. We've laid the foundation of that. Now we are looking at... But before then, remember you can download the app on Google Play Store and Apple Store. Follow us on our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are live, yes, and on Instagram, Lagoon Radio NG. Yes, Barrister, let's look at why do I need a lawyer on this?
Okay, that's a very, very good question, because I think because of the way in our particular experience in Nigeria, sometimes SMEs see lawyers as liabilities because for them, you have your marketing to do, you have operations to run, and these are where you should put money to get more money. And I wouldn't say that, having to invest in your, operations, marketing, all of that is bad. No, it's actually very good, trying to grow your business. But you really do need a lawyer. And the reason is because there is really no form of business you want to do and you want to be successful that would not be backed by the law. You must be operating within a set legal framework, and without a lawyer, you don't know the legal framework. And it also exposes you to a lot of risks. So you need a lawyer for risk management purposes as a business. You see sometimes some businesses dabble into agreements, and there's one that I heard recently. I was just laughing. So it was an agreement, they needed to do something, they just downloaded it from the internet, and then they signed. Later, when there was a dispute, they realized that, the governing law of the agreement was in New York, and the dispute was supposed to be settled by arbitration in New York and all that. And this is just a very simple, straightforward agreement between two parties. So you need a lawyer to hold your hands through the process. Okay. It starts from what vehicle are you going to set up? How do you manage yourself? What are the requirements of the law? Taxes, from a tax perspective as well. What are the taxes? And really, under our tax law now, small businesses that are small companies, the one the law categorizes as companies, that's under the tax law. Because, interestingly, the definition of small company under the comma and the tax is different, I think is not a correct approach, but that's one of those things. So, under the tax law, small company is one that earns less than... that has less than 25 million naira turnover in a year. They're exempt from payment of companies' income tax.
Okay.
You get? So you may not know that you may be running when you are still a small company and you don't know you have this exemption. The lawyer will help you know, when sometimes people say, these people are collecting these levies from us, those people are charging us this, charging us that. Some of them, the lawyer will be able to advise you as to which one you should pay and which one you should not pay. I was speaking to one of my friends and she said, this person said we have to pay withholding tax on this. This person will supply this service is saying that, they will withhold VAT. I said, no, it's not you that is the supplier that pays VAT, it's the consumer. You are supposed to charge VAT. So these are some of the things that you don't know. And whilst it's not been enforced, let me not say it's not been enforced, whilst there is the notion that, nothing is happening in terms of an enforcement perspective, it's a law, and you don't know when the government will decide to enforce them. So it's even from a best practice perspective, if you are building a business that you hope to expand in the nearest future, the foundation is important. So the lawyer helps you with your documentation, protects you when it comes to employer-employee relationship. There's just a lot. Even nowadays, we lawyers, we also, like, I'm a banking and finance lawyer, and I do also tax and some M&A, and we also know businesses of our clients. So we're not just lawyers that know the law. We know, we are very versed, we are commercially aware, so we understand what the economy is saying. We're able to have these conversations with our clients, at least just on a very informal basis. We have, lawyers also have networks. They're able to link you up. You say you need this, your lawyer can think through and say, okay, I think I have this client that's looking to do this. So we are sort of intermediaries in that area. So there's just 1,001 reasons why you need a lawyer, and it's important that, businesses get a lawyer.
Okay, now, talking about, having said this now, after getting a lawyer, how do I raise the funds?
That's a very interesting question. And that is where you distinguish between those who are passionate about the business they are doing and those who are just, just trying it out. But I know that for most people, it's not that they don't have the passion, it's probably lack of information. So there are many ways to raise funds for businesses. I mean, one I would expect everyone to know is personal savings, right? Anyone that is setting up a business should at least have some personal savings. Now, I know there are a lot of business, they are capital intensive. You may have a lot of ideas, but you don't have enough money and savings. That shouldn't discourage you, because some of the biggest businesses you see today, they started off without any funds. So fund is a limitation to growth and business development, but it shouldn't be it shouldn't be what we kill the idea, But personal savings is one way. Family and friends, for those who are able to, mop up funds from family and friends. You also have grants. Grants. These ones are the ones where you have a lot of NGOs, international NGOs. Even in Nigeria, you have the Tony Elumelu Foundation that, provides that grants to like African entrepreneurs. And you have sometimes, I think some banks, Access Bank, they do all this pitch turn where they have, they sort of invite entrepreneurs to pitch. And a lot of NGOs is just to utilize the internet properly to find them and find the conditions, It may be that when you see the requirements, you have to do a lot of homework, and you really have to, and understandably so, there's a lot of businesses competing for the funds. So you have to put the best proposal out there. And sometimes the mistake people make is to get third parties to do the proposal for them. I think it's okay to get third party support, but at that early stage of your business, you should be leading the way. You should know the business in and out. Know your business environment, your competitors. What's your advantage? What is your proposal? What are you bringing to the market? Like the new stuff you're bringing to the market. You should know how to align this, and some of this things you probably have to go to conferences, seminars, take online courses to know them. You have I've talked about grants from NGOs, sometimes from international organizations as well. You also have loans from banks, commercial banks. I know people are very wary of loans because of the interest rate. Some people think it can be quite expensive and all that. But whilst I know that yes, we have double-digit interest rate in Nigeria and it's quite high for businesses, I think also if you have a well-planned business model for what you want to do, you'll be able to assess the type of loan you need, and you'll be able to utilize the fund well such that you get returns and pay off the loans. Businesses shouldn't shy away from loans. The reason why people put it, the idea of the banking system is important for businesses to know that is people who are not entrepreneurs save their money for safety. The bank is there to mop up the funds and channel and allocate them into very productive ventures, right? So you can go for loans. Now, I know that because of the risks associated with SMEs, sometimes banks are not very disposed to lending to small businesses because of the risks of or credit risks. They don't really have much data on their credit, so most times they try to focus on the large corporation, which is a problem, and that is why we are still advocating about deepening our financial system in Nigeria and Africa generally. So, but you still see sometimes where CBN mandates bank to make sure you channel this line of credit. Sometimes to open a fund and have participating financial institutions do that. So you have microfinance banks too that focus on small businesses as well. You have venture capitalists. Most times these ones you see them more often in businesses that have already started a bit that want to grow. The venture capitalists come in. Most times they can come in by way of equity, so they become shareholders in the company. You have private equity. You see more of this in the big tech, people that are in the tech, sectors. But they can also come in different sectors depending on how your business proposal is and the potential you convince the investors that your business have. And you have incubators and accelerators. So we even have a lot of them in Nigeria. Let me not say a lot, but you have a couple of them in Nigeria where what they do is you pitch to them. They go through your plans and have meetings with you. And if they find your business proposal very interesting, they work with you. They help you, more or less add finishing touches to what you have, groom your management team and make you better and prepare you and support you as you go out to seek funding. There are just many options, and I can go on to list them. Crowdfunding is an option too, but that one has to be careful because you have the Securities and Exchange regulations, rules on crowdfunding for equity, and you have to manage that. And you have to also be careful of Ponzi. People are very careful of Ponzi schemes, which has led a lot of people to issues. And that's even brings something in my mind. I mean, the funds Nigerians lose to Ponzi schemes is one that if we have a very innovative proposal as to how to mop up those funds from people and channel into more productive things, it will reduce that, that risk. And you've started having some like you have piggy vests and the likes that have that saving thing where people put in the money. Then piggy vests, I believe what they do, I'm not privy to that, but I believe that what they do is that they take the funds to invest in different things and then get back returns and pay back people the return. So these are where technology comes in. So as Nigeria being the largest in terms of population and the largest economy in Africa, actually, we should be looking at that. We have potentials. Yes, we do have. Presently, our economy is not in the best shape, and also the fact that we are constrained in terms of foreign revenues and earnings as a country. Yeah, but the call for diversification can only be achieved, yes, with government providing the right environment, but then the citizens have to understand that our destiny is in our hands. When it comes to leading innovative ideas, what makes a nation is how innovative our people are, and try to strive to, excel. Yeah, I know we have, the constraints of the kind of governance environment we have, but we have to be, playing our part as well. And yes, most of us or some of us are doing that. So that's just it, and I think I've tried to touch. And I was going to mention you have this Lagos State Employment Trust Fund.
Okay.
That's also because I know my firm, we sort of provide. I work with Templars. We provide what we call like pro bono legal services. We support them. So what they do, I know they sort of open up for entrepreneurs to apply and come. They support them, give them advice, like more or less skill development sessions, support them, through all that and all that. So these are things that SMEs should be looking out for. Also mentorship. Sometimes you see a lot of established. I know there was a time the former CEO of Access Bank, Agimok, where they had this opening for mentorship, and you see a lot of established, people in the market, in the industry, in different sectors. They open up this mentorship opportunities for young entrepreneurs to sign up. These things, you know about them when you look for them. So it means that you cannot be intending to run a business and you're not researching, you are not reading, you are not widely, read, you are not improving yourself from a knowledge perspective. Another option is strategic partnership. You have the idea, you know what you want to do, who has the funds. You have to search for who has the funds. Oh, so and so, I do have this funds. Look at what I'm looking at. Can we partner to execute this? Then you need a lawyer as well to come up with agreement and support you with the negotiation process. So you can't run away from lawyers, And for those who have the means, other than the small businesses, those who have the means that are in different sectors and all that, we should also be looking at how do we come up with innovative financial products. This is for the banks in particular as well. We already have non-bank financial, coming up and all that in the more developed economy. You have a lot of them out there. So this is what we should be having, so that the SMEs, can't just rely on banks alone. The whole thing, they should be able to solve from different options, and you have what we call credit enhancement schemes. It's not just about the loans alone. Things like, there was a time CBN set it up, like guarantees, where CBN would say, okay, lend to this, I guarantee to pay if they don't. So there's a way it works, like guarantees. And there are different credit enhancement products that can be out there. That's where you have the likes of hedging instruments. Yeah, but sometimes some of these hedging instruments are actually, somehow it seems they're affordable to the bigger corporations because of sometimes maybe they seem complex or expensive to afford. But that is where innovation comes in. How do we make this more accessible to the smaller businesses? And I know that a number of entrepreneurs, young minds are thinking through all these issues and trying to see how do we bridge this financial gap. But then the SMEs themselves need to be prepared to benefit from that. They need to be well equipped to be competitive. And when we talk about building these businesses, we are talking about businesses that you'll be exporting. I mean, besides servicing the Nigerian market, you are looking at exporting to other African countries, to the rest of the world, having products that are competitive enough, that you can access the global value chain and be able to earn revenues, bring in foreign currency to the country. And we stop having this issue of every time we are constrained. Naira is falling, and it's a lot of things to deal with. And it's not a one-day thing. It's not a problem that. So the issues are not things that will be solved in a day. No. But when you have deliberate and well-planned government policies that are monitored properly in terms of implementation and evolve, governments are improving, engaging stakeholders, our SMEs, the people in the SME sector, they are on their own growing in knowledge and skills and all of that. And government is putting in place the investment climate is conducive. Infrastructure, when you infrastructure has to be there, power, road, train, all of that, they are there, and we are ready. It's not a one day thing. It's like a process. So these are things that we need to work together to achieve all of this, and we believe we'll be stimulating growth and development. And when that happens, it means more employment. It means better standard of living. It means better schools. It means we'll be on a better footing to be a better nation.
Okay, having said this, let me take this question.
Okay.
In a nutshell, what's the role of Islamic banking in small-scale businesses, and why should we embrace Islamic banking?
Yes, I think for sometimes we have because we all come from different religious background, and some people when they hear Islamic banking or hear any banking that probably have some religious connotation, they may have concerns, and that's understandably so. But I think it's also helpful to know that Islamic banking doesn't mean you profess the Islamic faith, anything close to that. No, it's just like just like some of the things we see in our Nigerian legal system and English legal system that we borrowed could be traced to some of the provisions of the Bible, even though they're not expressly said now. Islamic banking is just let's say financial products. They tend to offer financial products that sort of have some you draw from Islamic rules on financial support and all that. And I think the main distinctive feature they do have is the non-interest basis. So they don't tend to, they have a way of, gaining from it, but it's not the way you see it in the commercial, banking, or just other non-Islamic banking perspective where you have returns, and so they have a way of structuring it. Sometimes they can in form of risk sharing. I mean, they have different products. So to the extent possible, you can apply. I mean, some of the commercial banks, they obtain Islamic banking products to be able to fund some of SME ventures. As expected, when they obtain those loans from Islamic, like the Islamic development banks and all that, they usually have specific, what do we call it? They usually have specific businesses they channel it to, right? So it's what it is. Some of the roads you have in Nigeria are developed with the Sukuk Fund, which is a bond issued based on Islamic law. So I think one has to distinguish that you are taking from it doesn't mean you have to profess the Islamic faith. It's just a financial product that is, that sort of has, and if as you have a Christian development bank that thinks there is a financial product that can be built based on the provisions of the Bible, by all means, you float the product. You get, so it's really what it is, and there shouldn't be a problem, benefiting from that.
Oh, I wish we had more time. We have more time on the program. I'm learning a lot, and I hope you too. You're doing so. Finally, Barrister, what's your advice in 30 seconds? What's your advice to small scale and medium scale entrepreneurs?
I would say take the bull by the horn.
Okay.
There are only two things that can happen. You either fail or succeed. And even what we call failure is actually learning. So read widely.
Okay.
Be prepared. Do what you need to be. What you need to do to set yourself in motion. It's not a one-day event, so don't expect it to happen in 2 months. It's really work. It might take a year, 2 years. But the most important thing is that you are ready for it, and it will all go well.
Okay.
And get a lawyer, please.
Take the bull by the horn and get a lawyer. Thank you, Barrister, for talking to us this morning.
Thank you.
We hope to see you when next we call on you. In fact, I believe we should have a part 2 of this.
Absolutely. I think that would be nice. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for tuning in and thank you for listening. It's the Legal Show on Lagoon Radio. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And also thanks to our producer, Olumakaiye Jadi, for pressing the right buttons. Till we meet again next week with another bomb topic. Do have a lovely